They pulled my daughter and me out of our first-class seats in front of the whole plane, made us stand up, gather our things, and 0:077 seconds walk back down the aisle past every staring face to two middle seats in the very last row by the lavatory because somebody more important than a limping 0:16 seconds man and his 7-year-old needed our spots. I didn't argue. 0:21 seconds I learned a long time ago, in a place a lot harder than an airplane, that you can lose your seat and still keep your dignity. And I wasn't about to let my little girl see her daddy make a scene. 0:32 seconds so, I picked up our bags and I took Hazel's hand and we started the long walk to the back. And that's when the cockpit door opened and the captain stepped out. 0:41 seconds honor to have you. And in front of all 300 passengers, this gay-haired airline captain in his crisp uniform looked 0:48 seconds right at me, and he came to attention, and he raised his hand in a slow, sharp salute, and he held it. And the whole 0:56 seconds plane went dead silent because nobody, not me, not the gate agents who'd humiliated us, not one single person on 1:041 for seconds that aircraft, understood yet why the captain of the flight was standing in the aisle saluting the limping man they'd just thrown out of first class. I'm 1:131 13 seconds going to tell you the whole story, every bit of it, and I promise you it's worth the trip. But do this one small thing for me before we push back from the 1:221 22 seconds gate. If you're the kind of person who still believes the quiet ones, the overlooked ones, the folks who never ask for a thing, ought to be honored when 1:311 31 seconds nobody's looking, then tap that subscribe button right now and buckle in next to me. That's the whole fare. Now 1:391 39 seconds let me take you back to the gate and tell you how a man like me ended up in first class in the first place, and why it mattered so much that they took it. 1:471 47 seconds away. My name is Travis Boone. I'm 41 years old and I'll tell you up front because it matters to the story that I'm 1:541 54 seconds a veteran. I did 3 tours overseas and I came home from the last one missing most of my left leg below the knee and with a back full of hardware. 2:032 3 seconds and a few other souvenirs the doctors are still keeping an eye on. I walk with a cane on good days and worse than that. 2:092 9 seconds on bad ones. I don't lead with any of this. Normally I'm not one of those fellas who needs everybody to know. I 2:172 17 seconds did my job. A lot of better men than me didn't come home to do anything at all. 2:212 21 seconds and I figure the least I can do is not make a big production out of having survived. So if you'd seen me at that gate, you'd have just seen a tired L. 2:292 29 seconds looking man in a flannel shirt with a cane and a kid, and you'd have had no idea. And that's exactly how I like it. 362 36 seconds There's a thing nobody tells you about coming home from a war with pieces missing. You expect in some childish corner of your heart that the world will 2:442 44 seconds somehow know. That people will look at you and understand what it cost the way they would if you came home in a parade. 2:522 52 seconds But there are no parades for most of us. 2:542 54 seconds You just come home and you heal as much as you're going to. And you go to the grocery store and the gas station and the school pickup line on a leg made of 3:023 2 seconds carbon fiber. And not one single soul has the first idea. The cashier is impatient with you because you're slow. 3:093 9 seconds on the stairs. The fellow behind you in line sigh because you're holding things up, and you learn fast that the world doesn't owe you a thank you, and mostly 3 183 minutes, 18 seconds isn't going to give you one, and that the only people who truly understand are the ones who are there, most of whom you can't call anymore. So, you make your 3:273 minutes, 27 seconds peace with being invisible. You tell yourself it doesn't sting, and most days it doesn't. But I won't pretend there wasn't a part of me walking the aisle of 3:363 minutes, 36 seconds that plane that had forgotten what it felt like to be seen at all. I'm a single dad. My daughter's name is Hazel. 3:433 minutes, 43 seconds she's 7 and she is the whole entire reason my heart keeps beating. Her mother, my wife, Mara, passed 2 years. 3:513 minutes, 51 seconds ago. Cancer. We'd been together since we were 19 years old. She waited for me through 3 deployments. She was the 3:583 minutes, 58 seconds one who taught me how to live again when I came home broken. And then the one war I couldn't do a thing to protect her from took her anyway in 11 months while 4:074 minutes, 7 seconds I stood there useless. That's the krillest joke life ever played on me. And I've had a few played on me. I trained for 144 minutes, 14 seconds me whole adult life to protect people. I went back into fire for strangers. And when the one person I loved most in this for 214 minutes, 21 seconds world got sick, there was not one single thing in all my training, all my hard-won toughness that could do her a lick. For 3:04 minutes, 30 seconds off good. I couldn't carry her out of that. I couldn't go back in after her. I just had to sit in a chair by a hospital. For 3:74 minutes, 37 seconds bed and watch the strongest, kindest person I ever knew get smaller and smaller and hold her hand and lie to her a little at the end about how she looked. For 4:64 minutes, 46 seconds because she still cared how she looked even then, which is the kind of brave I'll never be. Mara was the one who put me back together when I came home in. For 5:54 minutes, 55 seconds pieces, you understand. She was the one who'd find me at 3 o'clock in the morning sitting in the dark and she wouldn't say a word. She'd just sit down next to me. 5:045 minutes, 4 seconds and put her head on my shoulder until the worst of it passed. She saved me a lot more times than I ever saved anybody. And I couldn't save her even. 5:125 minutes, 12 seconds once. A man doesn't get over that. He just learns to carry it and to be a good daddy anyway because there's a little 205 minutes, 20 seconds girl who needs her breakfast. So, it's been Hazel and me ever since. A wounded old soldier and a little girl figuring. 5:275 minutes, 27 seconds sit out together, one day at a time. Now, I need to tell you why we were on that plane and why it was first class. 5:355 minutes, 35 seconds because if you don't understand that, you won't understand why it cut the way it did. Mara grew up on the coast. The 5:425 minutes, 42 seconds ocean was her whole heart. She used to say the sound of the waves was the only thing that ever really quieted her mind. 5:495 minutes, 49 seconds when we got married, dirt poor, we drove to that coast for our honeymoon and slept in the truck because we couldn't afford a room. And we sat on that beach. 5:575 minutes, 57 seconds all night. And she said someday we'd come back with our kids. We never got the chance, the two of us. And before she passed, she asked me for one thing. 6:076 minutes, 7 seconds she asked me to take Hazel to that beach someday when she was old enough to remember it, and to let the ocean she loved meet the little girl she made, and 6:156 minutes, 15 seconds to bring her along, a little of her, so she could go home to the water one last time. So that's what this trip was. 6:236 minutes, 23 seconds was taking my daughter across the country to scatter her mother's ashes on the beach where her mother and I fell in love. That's what was in the carry-on. 6:3 16 minutes, 31 seconds was holding so carefully. That's why we were flying. And here's why it was first class, which I know is the part that doesn't fit a man in a flannel shirt. 6:4 16 minutes, 41 seconds. 2 reasons. The first is my leg and my back. A 5-hour flight crammed into a coach seat built for a smaller, younger. 6:4 86 minutes, 48 seconds. Whole man is genuinely more than my body can take anymore. I'd have arrived unable to walk and I needed to be able to walk to carry my wife to the water. 6:5 86 minutes, 58 seconds. But the second reason is the one that matters more. I had saved for this for 2 years. Every spare dollar in a coffee. 7:0 67 minutes, 6 seconds. Can a little at a time, because I had it in my head that this trip, the one trip that would ever mean this much, taking my baby to say goodbye to her mama at 157 minutes, 15 seconds. The edge of the sea, that this trip I would do it right. My girl would fly up front just once in her life. Like 7:2 37 minutes, 23 seconds. Somebody special because she is somebody special and because her mother would have wanted her treated like a princess on the saddest, most important journey. 7:307 minutes, 30 seconds off her little life. 2 years of skipped lunches and patched boots so my Hazel could sit up front one time. That's what. 387 minutes, 38 seconds. Those 2 seats were. They weren't luxury. They were a promise to a dead woman and a gift to her grieving daughter, paid for 1/4 at a 7:4 67 minutes, 46 seconds time. I want you to picture that coffee can because it sat on top of my refrigerator for 2 years and it was just 7:5 37 minutes, 53 seconds. About the most sacred object in our little house. Every Friday I'd put in what I could spare, which some weeks was 8:008 minutes $20 and some weeks was 2. Hazel knew it was the ocean fund, the going to see mama's beach fund, and sometimes she'd 8:078 minutes, 7 seconds drop in a few coins from her own little purse. Very serious about it. And I never once told her no, even though it broke my heart a little every time. 8:168 minutes, 16 seconds. Because a child shouldn't have to save up to say goodbye to her mother. I worked an extra shift where I could find one on a leg that didn't always want to. 8:248 minutes, 24 seconds. Cooperate. I fixed my own boots with shoe goo instead of buying new ones. And slowly, quarter by quarter, dollar by 8:338 minutes, 33 seconds. Dollar, that can filled up. And the day I finally counted it out on the kitchen table and saw I had enough. Enough to do it right. Enough for the seats up front. 8:428 minutes, 42 seconds. I sat down in that kitchen chair and I cried like a baby because I'd done it. 8:468 minutes, 46 seconds. I'd kept the promise I was going to take my girls to the sea. That can is what that man in the suit tried to take. When he took our seats, he didn't know it. 8:568 minutes, 56 seconds. But that's what he was reaching for. So, you'll understand that when we boarded and Hazel saw those big leather seats and her eyes went wide and she looked up. 9:059 minutes, 5 seconds. At me like I'd hung the moon and whispered, "Daddy, is this really ours?" That was about the best moment I'd had in 2 years. I got her buckled in, got 149 minutes, 14 seconds. Her little blanket, got her settled with her window, and I sat back in that seat with my ruined leg finally able to stretch out. And for about 10 minutes, 9:229 minutes, 22 seconds felt like I'd done something right. I felt like a good dad. I felt like maybe Mara was looking down and nodding. And 9:309 minutes, 30 seconds. Then the trouble started. A gate agent came aboard, a young, sharp-dressed fellow with the tablet in a tight, impatient way about him, and he was 399 minutes, 39 seconds talking to the lead flight attendant up front, and they kept glancing back at us. And then he came down to our row, and he crouched, and he said in a low 489 minutes, 48 seconds voice that wasn't nearly as quiet as he thought, "Sir, I'm going to need to move you and your daughter today. We've got a 559 minutes, 55 seconds seating situation up here." I said, "I'm sorry. Move us. These are our seats. 10:0010 minutes. I've got the tickets right here." And I started to get them out. And he gave me a look. You know the look. I've gotten 10:0810 minutes, 8 seconds sit my whole life. The look that prices your flannel shirt and your cane and your kid's hand-me-down coat in about half a second and decides exactly how much. 10:16 minutes, 16 seconds you matter. And he said, "I understand, sir, but we have a passenger who needs to be seated in the cabin, and we're 10:24 minutes, 24 seconds going to reaccommodate you and the child in the back. It's the most fair way to handle it, a passenger who needs to be 10:31 minutes, 31 seconds in first class. More than us, more than a wounded man and a motherless little girl on the way to bury her mama. Some 10:38 minutes, 38 seconds executive. I'd find out later, some big account the airline didn't want to upset who'd showed up late and wanted a first-class seat and didn't care, which too. 10:47 minutes, 47 seconds people got thrown out of theirs to make room. And here's the thing I keep coming back to. They didn't pick a businessman. 10:54 minutes, 54 seconds to bump. They didn't pick somebody who looked like he could raise hell. Somebody with a lawyer on speed dial. 11:0111 minutes, 1 second. They looked down that first-class cabin and they picked the two people they figured would be the least trouble. They picked the quiet man in the flannel shirt with the cane and the little kid. 1011 minutes, 10 seconds. They picked us because we looked like we didn't belong up there anyway, like we'd be grateful for whatever we got, like nobody would make a fuss over us. They 11:19 minutes, 19 seconds picked us because they looked at me and saw somebody who didn't matter. And the worst part, the part that put a knot in my throat I can still feel, was Hazel. 2,911 minutes, 29 seconds. She looked up at me confused, her little face starting to crumple, and she said, "Daddy, do we have to go?" I thought. 11:36 minutes, 36 seconds. These were our special seats. And what do you say to that? What do you say to your 7-year-old on the trip you saved 2 years for on the way to say 11:45 minutes, 45 seconds goodbye to her mother when a man in a nice suit has just decided she's not worth a first-class seat? I'll tell you what I said. 5,311 minutes, 53 seconds. I leaned down and I smiled at her the best I could and I said, "You know what, baby? Turns out the very best seats are in the back where you can see the whole." 12:0212 minutes, 2 seconds plain. Let's go find them. Because the one thing I was not going to let that man take from my daughter. 12:0912 minutes, 9 seconds was the joy of that day. He could have the seat. He was not getting her smile. 12 minutes, 15 seconds. So, I stood up on my bad leg in that narrow space, and I gathered our bags, and I took my little girl's hand, and I 12:22 minutes, 22 seconds got ready to walk us both to the back of that airplane with my head up, because I have walked through a lot worse than 300 staring strangers, and I was not going. 12:31 minutes, 31 seconds to give any of them the satisfaction of seeing me bend. But I'll be honest with you about what was happening on the inside, because the outside was a lie. I 12:40 minutes, 40 seconds was telling for Hazel's sake. On the inside, I was coming apart. Not because of the seat. I've slept in mud. I've slept in worse than mud. A seat is a 12:48 12 minutes, 48 second seat. It was that they'd done it in front of her. It was that I'd saved 2 years to give my daughter one day of 5,612 minutes, 56 seconds feeling special on the hardest journey of her life, and a man with a tablet had erased it in 30 seconds and made her watch her father be treated like he. 13:0413 minutes, 4 seconds didn't count. That's the thing that'll break a parent. Not what they do to you, what they do to you in front of your 13:12 13 minutes, 12 second skid. What your kid learns watching about how the world sees her daddy. I could take the bump. What I couldn't take was 2013 minutes, 20 seconds. The lesson it was teaching my little girl, that some people matter and some people don't, and that her dad was the second kind. I would have crawled to the 13:29 13 minutes, 29 seconds back of that plane on my hands and knees before I'd let that be the lesson. So, I stood up straight and I smiled and I 13:37 13 minutes, 37 seconds carried our bags and inside I was praying, actually praying, God, don't let this be the thing she remembers. 4,413 minutes, 44 seconds about today. What I didn't know, what I had no way of knowing, was that 2 people on that aircraft had been watching the whole thing and were not. 13:53 13 minutes, 53 seconds going to let it stand. The first was the flight attendant, a woman, maybe 50, who'd been working that front cabin and 14:0014 minutes had seen and heard every bit of it. The bump, the look that gate agent gave me, my little girl's face. And I found out. 14:0814 minutes, 8 seconds later that she'd noticed something the gate agent was too busy and too important to notice. She'd noticed my cane. She'd noticed the way I stood, the 14:17 14 minutes, 17 seconds way a man stands when half a leg is metal. She'd noticed the little challenge coin I keep clipped to my bag, the one from my unit, the one I never go. 14:26 14 minutes, 26 seconds anywhere without. And she'd seen when I pulled out the tickets, the small laminated card I keep tucked in with them, my veteran's ID, and that flight. 14:35 14 minutes, 35 seconds attendant. God bless her, I never even got her name right. Did not think it was right. So, while I was gathering our 14:42 14 minutes, 42 seconds bags, she walked up to that cockpit and she knocked and she told the captain exactly what was happening in his first-class cabin. And the captain, it turned 5,114 minutes, 51 seconds out, was the second person who wasn't going to let it stand because Captain Ed Calder was a veteran, too. I didn't know. 14:58 14 minutes, 58 seconds any of this yet, of course. All I knew was that I was halfway out of my seat, bags in one hand, Hazel's hand in the 15:0515 minutes, 5 seconds other when that cockpit door opened, and the captain stepped out into the aisle, and the whole front of the plane kind of froze. Because the captain coming out of 15 minutes, 14 seconds the cockpit during boarding is not a normal thing. He was an older man, gray at the temples, with that calm, steady bearing some men carry their whole lives. 15:22 15 minutes, 22 seconds once they've earned it. And he didn't look at the gate agent. He didn't look at the flight attendant. He looked straight at me, at the tired, limping man. 15:31 15 minutes, 31 seconds in the flannel shirt being marched to the back of his airplane. And something moved across his face that I can only describe as recognition. 15:39 15 minutes, 39 seconds not of me personally, of what I was, of what that coin on my bag meant, and that cane and that card. And then Captain Ed. 15:47 15 minutes, 47 seconds Calder in front of 300 people came to attention in that narrow aisle. And he raised his hand in a slow, crisp textbook salute and he held it on me and 15:56 15 minutes, 56 seconds she did not lower it and the plane went absolutely silent. I want to tell you what that did to me standing there. 16:0316 minutes, 3 seconds because I wasn't ready for it. For 2 years I'd been invisible, the wounded guy, the widower, the flannel shirt. 16:10 16 minutes, 10 seconds nobody looks at twice. I'd gotten so used to being the man who doesn't matter that I'd have started to believe it. And here was this captain, this stranger. 19 16 minutes, 19 seconds standing at attention and holding a salute on me like I was somebody in front of the very people who just decided I was nobody. And I'll be honest. 16:27 16 minutes, 27 seconds with you, my eyes stung and I had to swallow hard and I did the only thing a soldier can do when an officer renders. 16:34 16 minutes, 34 seconds honors. I let go of my bag and I straight.